Hey you, welcome back to Mick. It's your favorite Aussie tea drinker, Jack here, giving you some more stories on the internet, and here's today's bundle. If you enjoyed today's content, leave a like on the video, otherwise I will remove your spleen. Don't worry, it's not a threat, it's a promise. Let's get started with the stories. First story is, clearly as you'll find out, a throwaway. Would I be the a-hole if I, a 19-year-old female, don't call out my roommate, who's a 22-year-old male, for cheating on his current girlfriend with me? So, about a week ago, I moved into a new dorm room at my college. We have co-ed rooms, and found out that my roommate was a very hot guy. We got pretty flirty, and ended up hooking up the day I moved in, and every day for 1 week. So far, so good. Friday night, he tells me we're over and that I can't be seen with him because his non-official girlfriend is coming over. I was startled by this. I didn't know he was taken, and I wouldn't have slept with him had I known. I was freaked out by the news and slept at a friend's house. But when I got back to the room today, he was there with her, and I couldn't avoid them, so I introduced myself to her and didn't say anything about him cheating. As it turns out, she's staying for the weekend, and she's a really nice person. She's the sweetest girl ever, and I'm feeling guilty for not telling her that her boyfriend cheated on her. Here's where I think I'm the a-hole. I just moved into this dorm, where I'll be staying for at least 6 months. And I don't want to get on my roommate's bad side by telling on him. I'd be willing to let his sweet girlfriend stay ignorant just to keep myself out of the drama. Would I be the a-hole if I don't tell her that I slept with him? Oh, soap opera writers, eat your heart out. Honestly, I imagine her meeting the girlfriend for the first time to be some sort of confrontation akin to the scenes in Bold and the Beautiful. But before I press some judgment, let's see what other people have to say. Natar so far. You didn't know he has a girlfriend, and you responded to how hot he is. But why tell his girlfriend? To protect her? Or to confess what you did? Your motives are suspect. Don't tell her, and I agree with people who suggest you moving into a new dorm. Staying in this room will be a continuous reminder of what you and he did. Best. Nah, you suck in my book. I don't understand the people saying you're not. Most, if not all, residencies have policies for switching room, RAs and building heads to force switches for safety purposes, if ever needed, and especially for what could be a hostile living situation. For everyone who said it's not your place, this guy quite literally involved you, making it your place. I'm sure if the roles were reversed, you'd want to know and drop that kid. Not to mention you inadvertently contributing to the problem and allowing him to continue what he's doing. Those basically summarize both sides of the argument here. Things that I feel people aren't exactly taking into equation, though, is how you define him mentioning his unofficial girlfriend. I mean, that interprets it as implying they weren't exactly an item themselves, which personally is what has me a bit perplexed in my judgment with the situation. Because, technically, if they weren't actually an item, you haven't done anything wrong, and neither has he. No one has made some clear mutual arrangement with someone that they are official and, well, committed to that one person. To assume otherwise, well, that's really on you for assuming things that weren't clarified. But regardless, it definitely seems like this guy's spitting some plates. And ultimately, I think this all comes down to you, and what makes you happier and comfortable for your own conscience. I do agree that you're not the a-hole for not telling if they weren't official when you two hooked up, but nor would I say it's a bad thing to talk about this and let her know. You're young, and I think that everyone should be allowed to explore partners in their youth. It's a very important way for us to understand what we appreciate and dislike in a relationship. But I also think the whole spinning plates and doing it all behind each other's back, nah, that's sketchy. So look, overall, Natar. Next story. Am I the a-hole if I thought I saw my ex-girlfriend on a corny site and sent her a message about it? This is also a throwaway. I'm a 23-year-old male, and was tending to some business, as one does, when I came across the photo in question. In the moment, I was absolutely certain that it was my ex-girlfriend, who's also 23. I thought I recognized the look of her apartment and some of the items in it, and, of course, the girl in the photo was a dead ringer for her. My immediate thought was that, she must have had some nudes leaked. The picture was super fetishy and didn't seem like the kind of thing she would want to get out. Some backstory. Our relationship ended very poorly, and we haven't spoken for over a year. I was the one that ended things, and she definitely took it really hard. Still, I felt obligated to at least let her know. So maybe she could take steps to have it removed, or determine how it was leaked in the first place and or by whom. Long story short, it wasn't her, and now she's saying I'm an a-hole for assuming that it was and contacting her. I can see where she's coming from, because she obviously didn't want to hear from me to begin with, and having this be the contact was probably a tough pill to swallow. But from my perspective, I didn't in any way mean to insult her. I was just trying to give her information, but then leave it to her to handle it. People's thoughts? Nata, what you did you thought was best in the situation with the intention to help her out. Now what really should be clarified here is exactly how he contacted her, and oh boy, was it the worst way he could have done it. I just sent her the picture and said, "Is this you?" I wonder if maybe I should have eased into the conversation a little bit more, but at the same time I didn't want her to feel like I was leading her on. The other thing that could make me the a-hole is that the girl in this photo was a little overweight compared to my ex, and we were together, so I wonder if she felt offended by me thinking it was her. Okay, no a-holes here for contacting her to let her know, but based on your comment, you didn't do it appropriately. You hadn't spoken in a year, and you texted the picture with, "Is this you?" You're the a-hole for that. Your heart was in the right place, that she'd want to know if someone leaked a nude, but your execution was all wrong. Yeah, softy tar, no woman wants to be sent a photo of a corny star or OnlyFans woman that you're beating me to and getting a, "Is this you?" Because it comes across that you were thinking of them whilst taking care of yourself, and it's also insulting. Yeah, you're the a-hole. "Is this you?" That's all you said when you sent the photo? Well, holy goodness, dude, you needed to explain your reasoning the way you did here. Or better yet, get a mutual friend to do it. Yeah, it's quite obvious here that that is absolutely the worst way you could have confronted her about this situation. Like, how hard was it for you to think, "Hey, I saw what I think is a nude photo of you. I'm concerned about your privacy. I can send it to you to confirm if it is actually yours or not, but if you're confident no one's leaked anything of yours, this is okay, just please ignore this message then." That was a very half-baked attempt on my part, but I mean, that came across pretty well, I think. At least conveyed much better than what this guy was trying. Like, there's no way she didn't interpret that message as you judging or making some assumptions about her, let alone a really creepy way to try and flirt, if anything. Look, buddy, you're the a-hole, but it's a very forgivable yatar. Like, if you made a sudden toot while we're watching a movie together, would let it slide, you know, you're that kind of a-hole. Next story by Razel the Ghost. Am I the a-hole because I'm entitled? To keep this short and simple, I was talking to my mom about a situation involving my girlfriend. She was just on several-hour road trip yesterday, slept at a hotel, and spent several hours coming back. In which, on the way back, her parents sprung on her that they were going to be having guests over a bit after they got back. That same day, few hours later, and she had to entertain the kids. When she expressed she didn't want to because she was tired because of the road trip, they said she didn't have a choice. I was venting to my mum because I found it unfair, and I thought it was common sense that after a long road trips, people are usually tired and don't want to be around others. I know I tend to be, and she suddenly told me, "You really have an entitlement mentality, only comfortable with what you want." In regards to me thinking that I would never want to do it and finding it unfair, I thought it would be common sense that most wouldn't want guests over after a long trip. I said quietly as a response. Well, sometimes you don't get what you want. Well, I've been having several issues with my mum recently. Most I feel I've been in the wrong, but still really hurtful in her approach. Also calling me entitled when I wanted to use the printer to print out homework when my sister was on the computer in class, which, in my mind, would take 3 minutes max, and I was being told to wait half an hour. I was panicking. And I can now see how I was wrong in that situation. But she also said I was complaining to her when I was sad about getting a low score on a geometry test. I was hesitant to get the teacher's help. I mean, I was the smart kid, so I'm always a bit hesitant and a bit uncomfortable on more than one-on-one situations. And when I asked her if she could help, she refused, saying she doesn't know the material and to go to the teacher, while also saying at the end of the argument not to ask for help from her anymore. which she didn't really give. I feel I've done a lot of stuff, and that she said a lot of stuff that has hurt my self-esteem and put a strain on our relationship, when for years and years we were always really close. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It sounds like your mom has latched onto entitled as the word she can use to describe anything she doesn't approve of or agree with. No, you're both fine. I mean, you do sound entitled, but I think your mom's right. But, reiterating, your girlfriend's complaint doesn't make you an a-hole. This story is only very recent, so there's very few comments on it, but I'm perplexed about this original closeness you have with your mother. Surely, if she was really close to you, she would know you quite well, to the point where if she made a judgment about you, it would kind of be fair to say she's got some form of a point. I'm not saying she absolutely does, I'm just saying based on what you're telling us. It doesn't dismiss the harshness of her statements, but it's quite possible she's pointing out that your anxiety, at least your ability to panic when things aren't available for you immediately, such as using a printer or immediately knowing the answers to your geometry work, is causing you to be just that, someone who panics and needs something to be available for them right away. I'm of course not saying this is the complete correct answer. You'd need a therapist for that one. But I do think, again, also assuming that she isn't completely always abusive, and that maybe her harsh tone is just really her personality traits, which I also guess that doesn't excuse it from not possibly still being abusive. Look, basically, I agree to no a-holes here. You're not exactly being an a-hole and being purposely entitled, but I also don't think your mom's being a complete a-hole aside from just the way she's executing her advice. Next story by Plants and Seafoam. Am I the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend see his friends? I'm 21, so is my boyfriend. We'll call him Zach. He has 2 friends, Ben and Cooper. Zach once told me, offhandedly, that he would let Cooper frick him if given the chance. This hurt my feelings immensely. My boyfriend is bisexual, so this isn't just a blind insecurity. We haven't had time to ourselves in almost 2 weeks, but we finally had time today to spend together. He asked me if I wanted to come to watch a UFC fight with him and Ben. I agreed, and when the time rolled around to get ready to go, he came into the bedroom and said, "Please don't be offended, but Ben doesn't want you to come along. He and Cooper are pretty drunk already and don't want to embarrass themselves in front of you. Also, it's a boys' night." So he never told me before this that Cooper would also be there. Immediately, I got defensive, and he told me that he wouldn't go if it would make me upset. Well, we argued a bit because, I told them that I was still feeling hurt and paranoid because of what he said about Cooper, and this just seemed to make him angrier. I just laid down to take a nap because I was feeling a lot of things. A few minutes later, after I laid down, Zach stomped into the bedroom and said, "I'm going over to Ben's to hang out with my friends." He didn't even wait for me to sit up. He turned and hightailed it out the front door. I just curled up and started crying. Note that he already hung out with Ben earlier this week. He cancelled our dinner plans at the very last moment to do so. I don't know how to respond or what to do, but I'm starting to feel like maybe it's me who's in the wrong. Am I just being too defensive, insecure, and clingy? Am I the a-hole? People's thoughts? Not the a-hole, but honestly, if he tells you to your face he'd frick someone else given the chance, it's time to move on. No, half and half. I would say it doesn't sound like you're intentionally trying to be an a-hole, but your actions are making you out to be the bigger a-hole than you probably know. Being insecure that your bisexual boyfriend jokes about wanting to nail his friend can come off as very, very biphobic. The idea that he'll cheat on you because of this sexuality can be very hurtful. I should know, my ex-boyfriend said it to my face, and it broke my heart. Nata, it's not about you stopping him seeing his friends. He's treating you as plan B, and cancelling on you to spend time with them, then getting aggressive when you don't roll over and let it happen. You need to find someone who treats you as a priority, not an option. Those are people's thoughts. What's your verdict, though? Honestly, it seems pretty clear to me that she's not the a-hole here. It's one thing to be unnecessarily paranoid about the jokes your partner makes, but it's another when you express that paranoia and the hurt feelings behind it, and their reaction is to simply storm away and ignore or dismiss it. Don't get me wrong, I think you are ridiculous to be feeling upset by him saying this, but his response to your feelings is, it's so bad. To the point where it dismisses this as any possible a-hole trait you were creating by having such paranoid opinions. Next story is someone's creative attempts to tidy up their space. Am I the a-hole for buying a claw machine? I am 20. I still live at home as my university is close to home. My partner got annoyed with me for having too many stuffed animals in my room, and honestly, my mum said the same thing, so I guess they were probably onto something. I own too many stuffed animals, so I bought a claw machine as a cool way to store them. It's also cool to just practice and play. I go to Japan every year, usually to visit my grandparents, and in Japan, arcades are really popular. I paid a lot growing up, and honestly, that's why I have so many stuffed animals. I asked my mum if I could get one, and she said yes if I'm paying for it. It's in my basement. My boyfriend, who I plan on moving out with eventually, is really upset with me. He hates the claw machine and thinks it's ugly and doesn't want to deal with it in the future when we live together. He told me that when we move out, he wants me to sell it and most of my toys. But I can't stand the idea of doing either. A lot of my toys have good memories from Japan. A lot were worn by or given to me from relatives that have passed away. Am I the a-hole for not considering my partner's feelings before purchasing it? Nata, you should be wary of anyone who wants you to dump your interests in favor of a relationship with them. Remember that anywhere you live will be your home too. Don't allow someone to decide what you're allowed to bring with you. No a-holes here. You are personally attached to these stuffed animals, and your significant other isn't. You see memories, they see clutter, and a large machine that will have to fit somewhere in what may not be a large space. This is where you guys start learning the art of compromise, which you need to know if you're going to live together. Look, if you want to live with other people, as in share a wild, flat house with your stuff throughout, not a private room in a roommate situation, then you need to learn to be more considerate. I'm not saying you have to throw everything away, obviously, but having large items or copious amounts of stuff isn't okay in a shared space unless you both don't mind it. This post got deleted before I could finish screenshotting it, but she ended up deciding to dump her partner over this. Take that as what you will, but I have to agree with no a-holes here personally. I think people's justification for why you shouldn't budge in your stuff is an opinion that is opportune to hypocrisy the moment he wants to keep something in the house that he likes and he appreciates, but she doesn't. Totally one thing for him to want everything to be removed, but it's another to be concerned that your items are gonna fill up far too much space, as well as likely make him feel that he's living at your house, not exactly your house. Like that you have together. But look, she clearly decides that she'd rather have everything and not him than any other option, which makes me a bit fearful of some hoarding tendencies she might be developing, but also being suspect that this partner is someone who's quite, an a-hole himself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my roommates inviting people over? I'm a 21-year-old female and I live with 2 roommates, both women and my age, in our college apartment. During Halloween, they didn't tell me they were having people over, members of their sports team, and I had a pretty severe panic attack. I ended up spending most of the night in my room because of it. Usually, I would let this kind of thing slide, but today, they casually mentioned they were having 6 people over. Not to me, just to each other while we were all out at lunch. No one asked if I was okay with it, or really even told me until they had already made plans. One roommate finally said to me, "Hey, I know you were nervous on Halloween, so it's cool if you don't want to hang out with us." And I snapped at her. I told her that it would have been nice to have been asked before inviting people over. I live here too. I know I killed the mood, and now neither are really talking to me, which I get. I don't want to be rude, but I get pretty intense anxiety around people I don't know being in my home. I don't want to ruin their night. They were just trying to have fun. I'm pretty sure I did, though. Not sure if I crossed the line between setting my boundaries and being a bad roommate. Well, hey, on the plus side, at least you seem somewhat self-aware and are able to reflect on your actions. That genuinely is a good thing. In regards to what you are, though, you are the a-hole. Then you should have lived alone. It's their house too, and they should be allowed to have guests over. You should get some therapy because you have serious anxiety issues. Everyone sucks here. Your roommates suck for not notifying you first. But they have a right to invite people over to their own home as long as those people aren't causing any major issues that don't include merely existing in your presence. Yeah, look, you have anxiety, cool, but expecting rent-paying roomies to adhere to a no-visitor policy is unacceptable. and they gave you plenty of advance notice. Some defendants, though, Nata, you have boundaries. They crossed them and didn't even warn you. Also, what are they doing inviting 6 people over in a pandemic? That alone should make them the a-hole, even if all 9 of you were vaccinated somehow. I assume not because of ages. This can easily be a story with people on the fence. On one hand, do you prioritize someone's mental health over the just casual fun of others? Or is her anxiety problems really her problems? I suppose it can depend on how well your roommates know of your anxiety, but still, they are paying tenants. And it seems at least on the second time round that we're gonna put a party on, they talked to you about it first. They were clearly still gonna put it on regardless of how you felt, but at least they were letting you know this time. It honestly seems like they were actually trying to fix their mistake. Anyway, I think we'll end things there today. Hope you had some fun. Always fun reading these stories for you. I hope you enjoyed yourself. As always, I do appreciate your likes that you give and any comments and thoughts you have along the way. Nothing left to say, so I'll just say thank you for watching once again. My name has been Jack, as always. Pretty sure it hasn't changed yet, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.